Hello and welcome to the NairaBets handicapping session on the opening day of Saratoga and beyond. I'm your host, Peter Thomas Fornatale. So happy. This is the show I've been waiting to do, and so happy that NairaBets is on board to help us out here. And I'm also so happy to have an excellent panel together again to run through this opening day card with me and also to talk about the Saratoga meet in a macro way. Our first guest returning to the DRF airwaves, where he's a very familiar place for him. He's Daily Racing Form's New York handicapper. You know him from the great work he does on DRF TV, previewing and reviewing races, as well as the excellent analysis in the paper. He's Mike Beer. Mike, how are you today?
I'm great, Pete. Happy to be back on with you, of course. I like you. I think I was waiting for this webinar more than any other one because Saratoga was just a couple days away now.
It's fun. It's like Christmas Eve all week long. I love it. I also want to welcome back to our airwaves. He's a Timeform US analyst. You know him from the work he does not only on the Timeform blog, not only on the drf.com website, but also the great work he does on Naira's Talking Horses show. David Aragona, how are you tonight?
I'm doing great and happy to be doing this with you and Mike. Kind of bracing myself this week for the calm before the storm with all this great racing coming up, 40-day meet. It's quite a routine that we get into, but I mean, it's great.
That's actually a great place to start. With a meet like this, when you've got 40 days, when it's 6 days a week, now I guess it's a little bit different for you guys because you have your deadlines to consider in addition to the plays you're going to be making at the windows. But what advice do you have for the people listening trying to plan their summers and try to figure out a way to not get snowed under with all the work in a meet like this? David, how do you, when the card comes up, do you dive right in? Do you have any sort of system of organization to help you through?
Yeah, I mean, when I'm watching the cards live, I kind of have to take a deep breath at noon every day because, when you're doing your handicapping, whether it's at night or in the morning, I'm kind of always having 3 different race cards in my head at the same time because I'm writing about one, I'm handicapping one, and then you have today's card that's coming up that you've already done the work for. So, I mean, there can be a lot running through your head at one time. And I think you just kind of have to take a step back every day, review your opinions and just kind of, basically take the day as it comes and enjoy the day before moving on. Because if you kind of get lost in everything that's going on around you, it can really get overwhelming quickly.
Mike, as somebody who does a lot of trip work, is that something you try to do in real time during Saratoga? Or do you do it day by day? Do you spend the whole dark day going back over trips for the previous week? How do you get all that work done?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. Unfortunately for me, I'm not someone who can do it in real time. There's a real chance that I am the worst live race watcher walking the earth right now. I will watch a race live, think, this is what I thought of the race, blah, 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 this horse ran well, this horse didn't, and then go watch the replay and without fail, completely change my opinion after I go through the replay a little bit more cold-blooded. But yeah, I think for someone like me, the real thing that I have to do is to try and keep up with the replays because that's, the majority of my handicapping anyway. So I try and, keep up with the replays every night after the races are over, get home, take, whatever it is, 2 to 3 to 4 hours and go through all the replays and get my notes in. It's hard to do that with 6 racing days and, 13 race cards on Saturdays. It's a lot to keep up with. So I do wind up spending, almost the majority of my dark days sitting in front of the computer, watching replays. But that's just how it goes at Saratoga. And, to me, it's a lot of work. Sometimes it feels like too much work. Mostly though, it feels like it's worth it. And, then when it's over, you take a nice long nap.
When you're giving the kind of insights that you do nearly daily in the Saratoga meet, it's understandable. There's a price to be paid for that. Before I ask you guys a few more general questions about the Saratoga meet, I want to tell the listeners about the $200 bet and get sign-up bonus. Bet the action right from home by opening a NairaBets wagering account. Sign up today and you can earn up to a $200 new member sign-up bonus. Use the promo code DRF200 to bet 200 and get 200. Also, as a NairaBets member, you get exclusive access to the NairaBets Pick 5 offered daily on the late Pick 5 at Saratoga. NairaBets is available to horse players nationwide, so go to NairaBets.com and enter the promo code DRF200 to instantly qualify for this Bet 200, Get 200 sign-up promotion. NairaBets, racing's best play. All right, the next area I want to get into with you gentlemen is angles that you've found in the past to be successful at this Saratoga meeting. Mike, I'll start with you. I know, obviously more of a trip-oriented player, somebody who takes the cards as they come, but I'm guessing that over the years you've noticed at least a thing or two that seem to be more relevant when the horses head upstate than when they're downstate at Belmont or Aqueduct. Do you have anything to share in that regard?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, listen, I'm not, as you said, I'm not a big angle player. I don't look for too many of them. And I try not to get caught. I try not to get caught looking for angles either, just because I don't want to, be sitting around waiting for things to but, for Saratoga, for me, I mean, a lot of times my favorite races up there, and unfortunately they don't write a ton of them, but my favorite races are the two-turn dirt races up there. Because I really do think that's one of the main areas where you get what seem like form reversals from horses who just, either are really good around one turn at Belmont, but don't really want to go, those demanding two-turn 9 furlong races at Saratoga. So it seems like they just, throw in a bad race. But I feel like sometimes if you're paying attention, you can see that stuff coming with those horses. And the inverse of that is also true where, horses especially horses I feel like are stabled at Aqueduct and who do well routing at Aqueduct will all of a sudden find their form again. And the route races at Saratoga. So I'd like to look for those. And, luckily we have a couple of those two-turn dirt races on the opening day card. And other than that, I try and keep an open mind about the turf racing up there, especially if you don't get a lot of rain. I think you want to really pay attention if the courses get really firm, because they can get really speed favoring. So we'll see if that plays out this year. It's happened the last couple of summers up there. And, especially the turf routes on the inner, I think those are sometimes the most chaotic races, especially when they get big fields. I mean, those races, you get very few favorites winning. I think last meet it was something like less than, if you're on 25% favorites winning on the inner turf. Those races tend to have a lot of chaos, and you get upsets in those races.
Those are some excellent insights. David, what do you have to add in terms of angles you found profitable over the years at Saratoga?
I mean, the angles that I mostly look at lately are trainer angles. I think one of the biggest decisions you have to make going into the Saratoga meet lately is what you do with Chad Brown's runners, because, he's basically usurps Todd Pletcher these days as the king of Saratoga. And, I was just looking at some stats going back the past couple of seasons, especially for him, because I do think it's important to look at trainer stats specifically at Saratoga, because you do see certain patterns emerging. Chad Brown wins at a very respectable clip, of course, but his ROI the past couple of seasons, especially in the turf routes, has just not been what you'd expect it to be, hovering in the high 150s, 160 area on a $2 wager, which, that's awesome. He's winning races in bunches, but that just speaks to the fact that, the past couple of seasons, his horses are routinely underlays, and I think you have to, be careful with him, because he wins a lot, but there are also situations where horses that are going after other trainers that have similar merits are going to be inflated prices just because of the Chad Brown factor, and his horse is taking a lot more money. So that's something I try to pay attention to. I also try to look at trainers that could get hot up at Saratoga. I think it's important to kind of just take a glance at the recently completed Belmont meet and what happened down there, because a lot of times you see trainers kind of laying low during Belmont, or just sometimes having bad luck during Belmont, having a lot of second and third place finishes. Trainers like George Weaver or Bill Mott, who had pretty lackluster Belmont meets, but typically do well up at Saratoga and know how to turn it on up there. They're ones that I want to watch in case they get hot at this meet.
Great ideas. Weaver's record up there, especially on the turf with young developing horses, so impressive. And yeah, the Belmont meet, he'll have, the way the Belmont meet went, he'll have plenty of conditions left as well up at Saratoga. Definitely a good one to keep an eye on, I think. Mike mentioned the idea of keeping an eye out for if that turf course gets sun-baked, how speed favoring it can become, especially as the meet wears on if there's not a lot of rain. Do either of you have any other track bias trends you'll be keeping an eye out for as the meet develops?
I don't think Saratoga generally is a pretty fair racetrack. I don't really go in there thinking that, one running style or another is going to have an advantage in any one of the races at any of the distances on either of the surfaces. That's just me. I don't know if David agrees with that or not.
Yeah, I agree. Overall, the main track especially is really fair consistently throughout the meet. The one thing I would say, and Mike kind of alluded to this, in the two-turn races, you do find that it takes, I think, more stamina than horses typically need to get the same distances at Belmont or even the inner track at Aqueduct. So, I mean, you do want to take note of horses that really want to go the longer distances on the dirt. And even in some of the elongated sprint races, like 6.5, 7 furlongs, you notice a lot of horses getting pretty leg weary in the last 16th or 8th of a mile, whereas at Belmont, maybe they could carry that speed a bit better. But overall, I agree that the track is very fair.
Yeah, and when it is biased, it seems to be randomly biased. You could have a day where the rail seems dead, and then that gets cleaned up, and then another day the next week randomly that's speed favoring, and then it goes back. So nothing really that handicappers can hang their hat on. You just got to pay attention every day and make notes and hope to figure out what's going on. I want to ask you one more general question, and then we will get down to the brass tacks of this opening day card. Any horses, and David, I'll start with you on this one, any horses in particular you're looking forward to see race? And this can be from a sporting point of view, or it could be somebody you're waiting for on your horse to watch list who you're eager to have a bet on.
I used to do this a lot more in the past, kind of make lists of horses that I was looking to bet back at Saratoga. I do it a lot less lately, mostly because the races up here are just so tough, and kind of marrying myself to any one horse ahead of time is it hasn't always worked for me in the past. At this meet in particular, with horses coming in from out of town, and I don't want to be put into the situation where I feel like I can be a little lazy about a race and kind of take for granted that I'm going to pick a horse and maybe not consider other horses that would appeal to me under other circumstances if I had given it more of a chance. So I kind of try to not do that and just take every race as it comes, while having in the back of my head trips that I've seen at Belmont or before at other racetracks, and kind of, knowing what to look for in handicapping, but to keep an open mind as much as possible.
That makes sense. Mike, how about you? Any specific runners or star horses you're looking forward to seeing this meet?
Well, there's probably a lot of horses I'm looking forward to see run up there. I will say I didn't get caught quite as off guard as I really would have by this question, if only because I was asked this exact question over the weekend by somebody. And so, of course, at that time, I didn't have an answer. I just sort of gave him a blank stare and couldn't come up with the name of a horse. But I will say I did manage to finally come up with one horse. So I don't even know if he will run up there, because you never know with Linda Rice. But I'm really interested to see if Seymour Deeney shows up. She said maybe the Forgo. I'd be very interested to see if he shows up. If only because I feel like he's the kind of horse, and I happen to be a fan, but the kind of horse that you could really take either position on. You could really take a position for him. He's run 3, races, and he come back from a layoff and he just ran the big 113 buyer over that wet track in the state dinner at the end of the Belmont meet. And I think he's good, but I think you could take the opposite position on him too, in that, he beat a couple of really soft fields at Laurel, and then he did catch the wet track last time. So I'll be interested to see if he shows up, just to see what he does against some better horses. And as we're talking about horses to see what happens when they run up here. I wonder, just because I was watching the replays before this thing started, Dwayne Lucas has a 2-year-old who, and I won't come up with his name right now, but he was defeated by one of the horses running in the Sanford on Saturday, beaten by a Romans horse. He finished second to a Romans horse. That Lucas horse, I wonder if he's in Saratoga. He's a 2-year-old who ran second to the Dale Romans horse running in the Sanford on Saturday. If that horse shows up, he had a little bit of a trip in his debut.
All right, a couple of good ideas there. I'm going to read another word from our sponsor, and then we will start diving in. This one's about the Trifecta 10% winners bonus. Every day, a selected Saratoga Stakes race earns you a 10% winners bonus. The bonus is capped at $20 per player per day and must be placed on your mobile device to qualify. With NairaBets, you simply win more, plain and simple. NairaBets is available to horse players nationwide, so go to NairaBets.com and enter promo code DRF200 to instantly qualify for the Bet 200, Get 200 sign-up promotion. Lots of other great info on there as well. NairaBets, racing's best play.